Hi, this is Soul Mechanics, practical tune-ups to be a healthy human, and my name is Kate Foley. About a month after my divorce, I was settling into my new house and I wanted to discover the new area in which I found myself. I felt a little run down, so I decided to check out a local practitioner for a Reiki session. I looked at some Google reviews, found 4 to 5 stars, and several people said they felt safe and enjoyed the session. This particular practitioner had credentials listing him as a Reiki master, a Qigong master, a Tai Chi master, a Golden Dawn Grandmaster, and I'm pretty sure he was also a certified yoga instructor. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just a Reiki practitioner. So I booked a session. Honestly, I was a little intimidated by all of this guy's training. I was curious. So I arrived at his office. I was greeted by a lovely woman with engaging eyes and a warm smile. And I remember thinking, I'd like to get a session with her. She said I could have a seat in the waiting area and my practitioner would be right out. I waited about 5 minutes, and a nervous, jittery guy came out to greet me. I'll call him Ron. Ron briskly walked ahead of me back to the room. I stepped in and was hit immediately by a dense scent of cigarette smoke. The walls were faded white with obvious dents and scrapes. As he closed the door, he reached into his pocket and took out his cell phone. He started typing. I looked at him perplexed. Without moving his head, he glanced up at me and dismissively said, "Sorry, my girlfriend is wondering where I am. I need to let her know I'm in a session." I raised both my eyebrows as I turned around to sit in a stained wicker chair in the corner. As I bent my knees to sit, he said, "Oh, sure, take a seat." I took a deep breath and waited for him to finish texting his girlfriend. He finished and pulled a stool closer to my chair and said, "So why are you here?" I began to tell him that I just finished finalizing my divorce when he rolled his eyes and belted out aloud, "Ha!" which suddenly elevated the scent of smoke in the room. I looked at him perplexed again. He said, "Yes, and he gave you a run for your money in the divorce, didn't he?" And then immediately after that, he said, "I'm a gifted psychic and medium. You're getting a lot for your money in this session." I said, "Well, to answer your question, not really. The divorce itself was pretty uneventful." He said, "Oh, sometimes I pick up on other people in other rooms. Go on." I started to elaborate on my situation when he raised both of his arms with his palms facing me about 1 foot in front of my face. I stopped mid-sentence, yet again, and tilted my head to the side. To this he said, "I'm picking up on your pain." At this point, I realized this session had nothing to do with me, so I thought, I could get up and leave, or I could see what's really going on here. So I got on the table. He walked to each corner of the room and started moaning in a deep, raspy voice, and then began calling in demons, jinns, and then maybe some angels' names I didn't recognize. He talked incessantly about Aleister Crowley and Baphomet. He boasted about his abilities to heal and derided Asian Qi masters for not being able to live forever. As a distraction from all the demon talk, I asked him about how long he'd been studying Tai Chi. He said, "I'm a master." I said, "Yeah, I understand that, but how long have you been practicing?" He said, "About 6 months." I said, "Oh, and do you practice every day?" He said, "Well, I don't really have much time to practice." I said, "Oh, okay." As I was laying there listening to him go on and on about everything he knows and all of his talents, I sidestepped the notion that he could be doing some sort of damage to me. And I thought, this guy needs help. And then those words repeated in my mind, this guy needs help. So I tuned him out and I began to do Reiki on him. I started quietly praying for him, just asking for God's grace for him. He seemed really misguided and probably a little lost. I'm not going to tell you that something magical happened when I started working on him because it didn't. I eased myself off the table finally and nodded my head while he told me how amazing my life would be after seeing him. Then he told me the session was over. At that point, he began telling me about his past drug addictions and his current relationship with his girlfriend and her drug addictions, and the ensuing drama associated with this relationship. I started to notice that his hands were shaking pretty intensely, so I told him I needed to go. As he followed me to the front door of the building, he named all of his accomplishments and asked me to attend his classes. He gave me his business card and asked me to tell all of my friends about him. I barely got through the door. I pulled it tightly closed behind me, leaning into the street with all of my body weight, and walked briskly to my car. I'm not sharing the story to tell you how trusting or naive I am, nor am I telling you the story to complain about an irresponsible practitioner. This story is a cautionary tale, illuminating the pain that so many people are demonstrating daily. Ron's pain presented itself as a know-it-all, as arrogant, ignorant, prattling, devil-worshipping, and as an addict. Ron couldn't listen to me. His pain was so loud. Something in his life obviously broke his faith in himself and with the divine. The interesting thing is that Ron, should he find his way into recovery and out of devil worshipping, may end up being an incredible healer, a wounded healer, if you will. But right now he's just wounded. He's not a bad person, and I'm not judging him. Well, I initially judged him. And he was the brunt of a couple of jokes for maybe a couple of weeks. But the lesson I extracted from this experience is that he is merely a representation of what we see in the media, while driving on the roads, in our families, with our friends. If we can recognize these behaviors as a fellow human screaming in pain, and perhaps shed some compassion, not excuse them, but just hold a compassionate heart for them, hold some space away from judgment, something might shift. Don't underestimate the power of shared intent. If we all walked around looking to hold compassion for other people's pain, this world might be different. Pain requires compassion. The act of compassion has incredible benefits on the body, especially the heart. Try it out for yourself. You have plenty of opportunities. This is Kate Foley. Thank you for listening.